Hey guys, welcome back to 90 Feet from Home. I'm your host Ashley, and you better buckle up because it's gonna be a long one today. And I am gonna warn you ahead of time. I am notoriously bad at pronouncing player names, and I'm going to do my best here, you guys, but I will make notes down below if I am corrected or really figure out down the line that I have absolutely messed up somebody's name here. It's not my intent. I am a very phonetic reader, so I tend to pronounce names exactly as I read them, and in some instances I just should know better because these are very famous baseball players. So I'm just gonna do my best, and you guys are gonna have to deal with it if I make mistakes. I will correct them down below, but this is just me prefacing this and apologizing ahead of time. So today we are going to discuss retired numbers by team. Now, a retired number basically means that that team takes that jersey number out of rotation. This is done to celebrate particularly famous or skilled players throughout that team's history, and it just helps to immortalize their kind of legend within the team. You'll usually see these numbers displayed around the stadium, either with the player's name or just the numbers hung up, and it's kind of a neat way to look back and see that team's history and see the great players of a team's history. The number 42 is retired across all of Major League Baseball, and that is for Jackie Robinson, the first player to cross baseball's color line and play Major League Baseball as an African American. As for the rest, we're going to go alphabetically by team name, so of course we're going to start with the Oakland Athletics. Number 9 is retired for Reggie Jackson. Number 24 is retired for Ricky Henderson. Number 27 is retired for Catfish Hunter. Number 34 is retired for Raleigh Fingers. And number 43 is retired for Dennis Eckersley. For the Los Angeles Angels, number 11 is retired for Jim Fregosi. Number 26 is retired for former owner Gene Autry. Number 29 is retired for Rod Carew. Number 30 is retired for Nolan Ryan. And number 50 is retired for former coach Jimmy Reese. For the Houston Astros, number 5 is retired for Jeff Bagwell. Number 7 is retired for Craig Biggio. Number 24 is retired for Jimmy Wynn. Number 25 is retired for Jose Cruz. 32 is retired for Jim Umbricht. 33 is retired for Mike Scott. They're going to run out of numbers pretty soon. 34 is retired for Nolan Ryan. Yes, the same Nolan Ryan as the Angels. 40 is retired for Don Wilson. 49 is retired for Larry Dierker. For the Toronto Blue Jays, number 12 is retired for Roberto Alomar, and number 32 is retired for Roy Halladay. The Atlanta Braves have another big list. 3 is retired for Dale Murphy. 6 is retired for manager Bobby Cox. 10 is retired for Chipper Jones. 21 is retired for Warren Spahn. 29 is retired for John Smoltz. 31 is retired for Greg Maddux. 35 is retired for Phil Niekro. 41 is retired for Eddie Matthews. 44 is retired for Hank Aaron, and 47 is retired for Tom Glavine. For the Milwaukee Brewers, number 1 is retired for former owner and former commissioner of baseball Bud Selig. 4 is retired for Paul Molitor. 19 is retired for Robin Yount. 34 is retired for Raleigh Fingers. 44 is retired for Hank Aaron. You're going to see a lot of repeats in here for guys that have been on multiple teams that are considered to be historically great players overall. The St. Louis Cardinals have quite the list, so brace yourself. 1 is retired for Ozzie Smith. 2 is retired for Red Schoendienst. 6 is retired for Stan Musial. 9 is retired for Eno Slaughter. 10 is retired for former manager Tony La Russa. 14 is retired for Ken Boyer. 17 is retired for Dizzy Dean. 20 is retired for Lou Brock. 24 is retired for former manager Whitey Herzog. 42, while retired for Jackie Robinson, is also retired for Bruce Sutter. 45 is retired for Bob Gibson. Broadcaster Jack Buck and Rogers Hornsby are also both retired by the Cardinals, but without a number. For the Chicago Cubs, 10 is retired for Ron Santo. 14 is retired for Ernie Banks. 23 is retired for Ryan Sandberg. 26 is retired for Billy Williams. 31 is retired for Ferguson Jenkins. And 31 is retired for Greg Maddux once again. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, because they are such a young franchise, the list is quite short. 20 is retired for Luis Gonzalez. And 51 is retired for Randy Johnson. For the Los Angeles Dodgers, number 1 is retired for Pee Wee Reese. Number 2 is retired for former manager Tommy Lasorda. 4 is retired for Duke Snyder. 19 is retired for Jim Gilliam. 20 for Don Sutton. 24 for former manager Walter Alston. 32 for Sandy Koufax. 39 for Roy Campanella. 42 for Jackie Robinson. And not just because of the league-wide retirement, but of course Jackie Robinson did play for the Dodgers, so it makes sense that they would directly retire his number as well. And 53 for Don Drysdale. The San Francisco Giants, 3 for Bill Terry, 4 for Mel Ott, 11 for Carl Hubble, 20 for Monty Irvin, 24 for Willie Mays, 25 for Barry Bonds, 27 for Juan Juan Marichal, 30 for Orlando Cepeda, 36 for Gaylord Perry, 44 for Willie McCovey. And both John McGraw, the manager, and Christy Mathewson are retired by the Giants, but with no number associated. For the Cleveland Indians, 3 for Earl Averill, 5 for Lou Boudreau. There are a lot of sounds in there. Lou Boudreau. Oh, that's fun. 14 for Larry Doby, 18 for Mel Harder, 19 for Bob Feller, 20 for Frank Robinson, 21 for Bob Lemon, and 25 for Jim Thome. For the Seattle Mariners, 11 for Edgar Martinez, and 24 for Ken Griffey Jr. The Miami Marlins have no retired numbers. Ooh, scandal. For the New York Mets, 14 for former manager Gil Hodges, 31 for Mike Piazza, 37 for former manager Casey Stengel, 41 for Tom Seaver. For the Baltimore Orioles, 4 for former manager Earl Weaver, 5 for Brooks Robinson, 8 for Cal Ripken Jr., 20 for Frank Robinson, 22 for Jim Palmer, and 33 for Eddie Murray. And I think that makes the Orioles the only team to have 3 numbers retired for a Robinson. The combined efforts of the Washington Nationals and Montreal Expos, single tier, 8 for Gary Carter, 10 for Rusty Staub, 10 also for Andre Dawson, and 30 for Tim Raines. For the Philadelphia Phillies, 1 for Richie Ashburn, 14 for Jim Bunning, 20 for Mike Schmidt, 32 for Steve Carlton, 36 for Robin Roberts, and then they have a P kind of designation instead of the no number like other teams, and they have 2 of those set aside, 1 for Grover Cleveland Alexander, and 1 for Chuck Klein. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, number 1 for former manager Billy Meyer, 4 for Ralph Kiner, 8 for Willie Stargell, 9 for Bill Mazeroski, 11 for Paul Wainer, 20 for Pie Traynor, 21 for Roberto Clemente. Now, a note on Roberto Clemente's number 21. There is some discussion as to whether or not baseball should retire that number as well across all of baseball, but as of right now, there is no intention to do so, but you may see that conversation come up periodically because Clemente is such kind of an iconic figure who did so much good for both baseball and the communities around baseball. There is an award given out every year in his name for those who kind of do the most good outside of baseball, but as of right now there is no intention to retire his number. 33 is retired for Honus Wagner, and 40 is retired for former manager Danny Murtaugh. For the San Diego Padres, 6 is retired for Steve Garvey, 19 for Tony Gwynn, 31 for Dave Winfield, 35 for Randy Jones, and 51 for Trevor Hoffman. For the Texas Rangers, number 7 is retired for Ivan Pudge Rodriguez, 26 for former manager Johnny Oates, and 34 for Nolan Ryan. That's 3 teams for Nolan Ryan if you are counting. For the Tampa Bay Rays, number 12 is retired for Wade Boggs, and number 66 is retired for former manager Don Zimmer. For the Boston Red Sox, 1 is retired for Bobby Dorr, 4 for Joe Cronin, 6 for Johnny Pesky, who also has an outfield pole named after him, Pesky Pole, 8 for Carl Yastrzemski, 9 for Ted Williams, 14 for Jim Rice, 26 for Wade Boggs, 27 for Carlton Fisk, 34 for David Ortiz, and 45 for Pedro Martinez. The Cincinnati Reds have quite the list as well. 1 for former manager Fred Hutchinson, 5 for Johnny Bench, 8 for Joe Morgan, 10 for former manager Sparky Anderson, 11 for Barry Larkin, 13 for Davey Concepcion, 14 for Pete Rose, 18 for Ted Kluszewski, 20 for Frank Robinson, and 24 for Tony Perez. The Rockies have the number 17 retired for Todd Helton. The Royals have number 5 retired for George Brett, 10 retired for former manager Dick Hauser, and 20 retired for Frank White. The Detroit Tigers, 2 for Charlie Gehringer, 3 for Alan Trammell, 5 for Hank Greenberg, 6 for Al Kaline, 11 for former manager Sparky Anderson, 16 for Hal Newhouser, 23 for Willie Horton, and 47 for Jack Morris. And they should retire the number 1 for Lou Whitaker, but nobody asked me. The Minnesota Twins, number 3 for Harmon Killebrew, 6 for Tony Oliva, 10 for former manager Tom Kelly, 14 for Kent Herbeck, 28 for Bert Blyleven, 29 for Rod Carew, and 34 for Kirby Puckett. The Chicago White Sox, 2 for Nellie Fox, 3 for Harold Baines, 4 for Lou Gapling, 9 for Minnie Minosa, 11 for Luis Aparicio, 14 for Paul Konerko, 16 for Ted Lyons, 19 for Billy Pierce, 35 for Frank Thomas, 56 for Mark Burley, and 72 for Carlton Fisk. Okay guys, we've reached it. The Yankees. Brace yourselves, prepare yourselves, and ask yourselves how it's possible that they have any numbers left to give to new players as we go through this extended retired number list. 1 for former manager and player Billy Martin, 2 for Derek Jeter, 3 for Babe Ruth, 4 for Lou Gehrig, 5 for Joe DiMaggio, 6 for former manager Joe Torre, 7 for Mickey Mantle, 8 for Yogi Berra, 9 for Roger Maris, and 10 for Phil Rizzuto. So all of the first 1 through 10 numbers are fully retired for the Yankees, and we're not done yet. 15 for Thurman Munson, 16 for Whitey Ford, 20 for Jorge Posada, 23 for Don Mattingly, 32 for Elston Howard, 37 for former manager Casey Stengel, 42 for both Jackie Robinson and former closer Mariano Rivera, who was actually the last active player to wear the number 42 before it was fully retired across all of baseball. And Rivera was actually the last player to continue being able to wear number 42 after it had been retired by all of baseball. He'd already had it prior to the retirement, so he was allowed to keep it until his retirement, and now it is retired for both him and Robinson with the Yankees. Rivera is also the only player to ever unanimously be a first ballot inductee into the Hall of Fame, so he's fairly well liked. 44 for Reggie Jackson, 46 for Andy Pettit, and the French speaker in me really wants to say petite there, but I didn't, you guys, so please be proud. 49 for Ron Guidry, and 51 for Bernie Williams. I feel like this was just a soothing thing to have on in the background, and perhaps not as educational as one might expect. Nolan Ryan kind of takes the cake is being the most retired across teams, with 3 different teams having him retired, which is fairly impressive. If you liked this, give it a big thumbs up down below. Remember to hit that subscribe button while you're down there, ring the bell if you want to be notified every Tuesday and Saturday when a new episode goes live. And of course, you can follow me on social media, where I'm at 90 Feet From Home on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So until next time, guys, have a good one. Bye!